Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I am the host of the YouTube channel, To Be Your Own Hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient, and I've been battling cancer for almost a little over 2 years now. And things are going great, and my health has gotten better and better. And, I'll probably have lingering issues, for the rest of my life. But uh, I'm happy to be alive and I'm happy to be here. And I'm so, so thankful. And as far as any health updates, I haven't been tested very recently, but things are going well. Things are going well. And coming to you from Southern California, I'd like to welcome a former uh, young lady from Southern California, Lori Lemasters.
Hey,
Lori, please
hi
introduce
there.
yourself and say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi there. I'm Lori Lemasters and a former caregiver. I cared for both of my parents for 8 years towards the end of their lives. And through that process, I became a certified therapeutic journal writing instructor, which is my business. And it's sort of how Mark and I met. He found me in the big internet sky, and and so we've been talking a lot about, caregiving and how the emotions and the challenges of someone like me that goes through taking care of someone like Mark through everything that he's been through. So we're here today to talk a little bit about both sides of the coin, if you will.
Thank you so much, Lori. I think, why don't we start at the beginning of what we discussed, beginning of your journey. So if you could start us where we can
Sure.
see the whole picture.
Sure. So I, like many caregivers, was going along my life just as happy as could be, living my life away. And I had grown up, as Mark said, I grew up in Southern California, but I had moved to Colorado and made a really good, stable life there. I had a wonderful career in the mortgage business and was just moving around right along. I lived about 7 miles from my son and daughter-in-law and grandchildren and had a really pretty beautiful life, and received a phone call one night around 11:30 from my older brother and telling me that my mom had survived a massive stroke and she was at UCLA. And so first thing I did was call my son, and tell him what was going on. And what we decided to do was that I would go home and assess the situation and decide whether he needed to come or, what we were going to do. So, long story short, after visiting with doctors and family and everything, I made the decision to move back home and take care of my mom and my stepdad. My mom actually was his caregiver. He was on dialysis. And the conversation went from would she survive to she was going to survive, but her life was never going to exactly be back to normal. She was left with right side paralysis, so she was no longer able to go around on her own. She needed full assistance, and she was left an expressive aphasic. And what that means is she couldn't use language to express herself on command. And it's very funny, we don't realize how the process in our brain works, and you just think of something and you want to say it. And for my mom, it wasn't that easy. So she said do, thinking she was saying words. So the ultimately over time,
But did you ever figure out what that meant?
the do-do-dos meant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we had a good system. I mean, she was very expressive and could use hand gestures. So I would ask a lot of yes or no questions. Is it about you? Is it about me? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you need to go to the bathroom? That kind of thing. And she could say yes or no. Sometimes she could say whatever was on her mind. If she wasn't thinking about it, she might say, you know, Mark, I like that background, you know, and then you'd ask her a question, and then she would do you. So, you know,
Uh,
so the amount of time that I cared for them, my dad lived about 3 years into the process after my mom's stroke, and then he passed away, and my mom lived another 5 years after that. So my total caregiving experience was 8 years.
so that brought up a thought. Can you talk about uh, what can happen to caregivers who have given care as far as, you know, their mortality rate?
Yeah. So one of the things that I work with caregivers on is teaching them how to take care of themselves while they're caring for a loved one. The statistics of a caregiver that doesn't survive, that doesn't outlive their loved one who they're caring for, is over 40%, which is a really high number. But
Yes.
we all know how detrimental stress is in our lives, right? And caring for another person is highly stressful. And when you don't take care of yourself and you're not managing your own health, especially if you go into the process a little bit unhealthy, if you have high blood pressure, you know, if you have health issues yourself and you're caring for a loved one, we really feel strongly that my mom caring for my dad during that early dialysis time caused her so much stress that it's quite possible that that brought on the clot that created her stroke. So, um, you know, it's very high statistically how many caregivers, or even if you do survive your loved one, you end up with some health issues ongoing. Many have physical health issues. Like for me, I have issues with my elbows, and I have issues with my back from lifting my mom so many, you know, for so many years. Um, a lot of people end up with emotional issues, um, anxiety, stress. In fact, there's a lot of information around PTSD, caregivers ending up with PTSD after caring for a loved one.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you find that that the patient abuses the caregiver mentally?
You know, I would say it depends on the person, and it depends on the relationship they have in general. So, but yeah, it can happen if that person before, you know, people don't necessarily change dramatically after they become diagnosed or become ill, right? And so if that was their personality beforehand and they were manipulative, or you know, there's a lot of woe is me, there's a lot of, you know, that type of thing. At the other end of the spectrum, there's also people who are ill that don't want a lot of attention. They don't want, you know, you and I have talked a good bit, getting to know each other and in preparation for this interview.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I got from you is that you were very strong-willed. You were going to do it all yourself, and you were going to do your research and take care of yourself, and, you know, work out as soon as you could get your strength back and all of that. So there's that end of the spectrum as well. And then there's caregivers that are kind of left going, well, where do I fit into this? What do I do? How do I do it? You know?
Wow. Um, yeah, I know we deviated uh, talking about your parents, and then there were just so many incredible things that you're saying that I just would wanted to know as we go
Fine.
along. Otherwise,
Sure.
I'd just forget it, and I didn't want to do that. So,
Sure.
why don't we go back to your parents' situation and start moving forward after that?
Sure. So, like I said, about 3 years in, my dad passed away. And I had moved to LA back into my childhood home, right? So all of a sudden, after having been out of the house for 20 plus years, I'm waking up every morning in my childhood bed, in my childhood bedroom. I mean, that's a pretty emotional, odd transition to make, right? And so I'm taking care of my parents,
I know what you mean.
right?
Yeah,
There's
I actually stayed at my mom's house in my room, in what used to be my room, and it took me a while to get used to it, but I did.
Yeah, you do, but it's a bizarre feeling, right?
Yes.
So I mention that because, you know, so many caregivers go through such emotional struggle and challenge. And there's a lot of feelings involved in caregiving. You know, we use the term you're caring for a loved one because, you know, how else do you describe it? What else do you say? But a lot of people who are caring for someone sometimes wouldn't describe that person as a loved one, right? So, you know, I've had many people take my classes who are caring for an ex-husband, an ex-wife, you know, an ex not spouse, maybe just a girlfriend or boyfriend or something, you know, and but there was nobody else there, and this person steps up to take care of them and help out in these situations. So I don't know what else you call the person. I tend to say if you're caring for another person or if you're caring for an individual, right? Um, so anyway, while I was doing that, I had a
Can I
lot of
stop you real quickly? I have another question.
that's okay.
Um, when you have a situation where it's like an ex-wife and an ex-husband, either or caring for each other, what happens that you've seen as far as the dynamic of pairing up exes?
Repairing, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, you know, it can be very difficult because the reasons, unless there's been a lot of emotion, you know, a lot of therapeutic work done by you know, by both parties, coming back together again just stirs back up a lot of the same reasons why they split up to begin with, right? And then you add the illness on top of it, and then you're trying to manage things. Um, that can be, it just adds other layers to the whole caregiving dynamic. And it sometimes isn't pretty layers, right? There's still the arguing, there's still, you know, um, when you're
But
caring for someone, especially if you're living there and you're with them 24/7, it's hard to be on your best behavior all the time, you know? And emotions get raw, feelings get raw. And so it can be a really difficult dynamic. And hopefully, when people in those situations, then hopefully they seek out professional help or they seek out a support group, you know, where they can go and express themselves in a non-threatening, non-judgmental environment, and get those feelings and emotions out. It's that's the biggest help for caregivers, I think, is to really find a resource that they can vent, if you will, and talk honestly about how they're feeling and how what this is doing to them emotionally.
oh, I think that's just so important to share and express yourself. You know, that's the amazing thing for me. When I started this YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
um, just I I I always started this channel with the intention of helping one person.
Right.
I just wanted to help one person, and so I was always focusing out, and then I helped one person, and then I wanted to help another person, and then I went from helping one person every couple of weeks to every week to every few days to, every couple of days to every day, and then several times a day. So for me, this YouTube channel is one of the, by interacting with people such as yourself, it does every bit as much for me. And I think,
Exactly.
people
It's
all,
cathartic, right?
yes, yes,
Very much.
yes. And it's very, I always feel energized because I love people and I love meeting people and I love to get to know people. And so I'm going to tell the truth. We actually shot this video last week, and I'm not the greatest in tech at all. I'm the first to admit it. I never thought I could even, get this channel going, once my daughter Lisa left. She helped me set it up and she did so much. She just kept going, Dad, you got to make sure that you know this. And she would, like, we went over and finally I get it, because there's a number of steps that you need to take in order to post a video. Now it's like a piece of cake because I've done it so many times, but at the beginning it was not
Except
easy.
last week.
Yeah. Oh, and that was the second time something's happened technically, and it was like, for minor stuff, I just let it go sometimes. Like, for instance, on the last video I did, the person I was interviewing, her name is Michelle. She had a bandwidth problem, and so the video just kind of went like black on what I thought was going black. But what actually happened in that period of that time, and I said, hey, I kept saying, are you there? And all this kind of stuff. But what was good, when I went back to look for that spot, the camera kept focused on me asking these things. And so I was like, oh, thank you. It eliminated that. So,
Yeah.
um, so the truth be told, uh, I messed up. I pushed some kind of button and it only showed Lori in the whole thing. And it just looked weird because my voice would come out and Lori would be like looking around. So we decided to reshoot it, to make a long story short. But so we've had a lot of talking already, and I really enjoy talking to Lori because she's so knowledgeable and has such a great attitude as well. And so let's talk about attitude and how important the importance of the role of attitude with a caregiver and a patient.
Oh, it's everything. It really is because, you know, so what can happen, when you're caring for someone, you you not only are dealing with your own feelings and emotions and mood and a lot of times you're exhausted, maybe you didn't sleep well, maybe that person kept you up all night or um, whatever, and especially when you're tired, that it's so hard to have a good attitude, right? But your partner's attitude and your attitude, you play off each other, and so it's hard to get things accomplished. It's hard to stay to heal. It's hard to focus. It's hard. All of those things require a more positive attitude, right? And a willingness to laugh at life, at the things that are thrown at you, at hitting the wrong button. It's just like life happens. And so many caregivers that take my classes sometimes are so serious and so hard on themselves about, I did this, or I snapped at my mom, or I didn't ask the doctor that, or whatever. And they just get so focused on what didn't work instead of looking at the bigger picture of what they're doing and what is working, and the positive effect that they're making on their loved one's life, right? And so attitude is everything. It really is. And if I had one thing to say around attitude, is that you can change it anytime you want, right? So let's
Yes.
say you woke up and you're in a bad mood. Fix it. You don't have to be in a bad mood all day just because you woke up that way, or something, you woke up in a good mood, and the person you're caring for isn't in a good mood, and so they're they're coming at you, and they're coming at you. We have a choice how we respond to that, and how we take it, and how we um, interact with people, including ourselves, right? Based on up here, and how we want to make that adjustment to make it better, have a better day, and that's where therapeutic writing, what I teach, comes into play. Because if I'm having a bad morning and I sit down and I journal about, stuff can come up for me that was like, oh, I didn't realize that was what was bugging me, or,
Can you say a few words about what you would write in a particular, let's just say, whatever. How do you write that to yourself
about what?
in for your journal?
Okay. So yeah, let's just say I wake up and I'm, having a really bad, crabby day. And I don't even know why I'm crabby. Like, I got a good night rest. I thought I was going to have a good day. So I would sit down, and a prompt that I might use is, today I'm feeling really, and then I would just write about that, finish that sentence, right? There's two keys that I teach to therapeutic writing, or to journaling. And the first one is, you don't write forever. You set a time limit, and usually it's like 5 minutes, and you just write for 5 minutes. When that timer goes off, you stop. And because I know, I see your face, and I describe it. It's very similar to an argument, right? If you're having an argument with your wife, you usually express what you're feeling in those first 5 minutes. If you go on and on and on and on, it's repetitive, and sometimes it just gets uglier. And when the truth is, you probably said what you needed to say pretty quickly, right? So you want to limit yourself to 5 minutes, and then you want to read what you wrote, and you want to write for 2 more minutes, starting with, reading this I realize, or reading this I'm surprised by, or whatever. So the first entry is getting everything off your chest. The second entry should give you an aha moment. That's where you get, oh, that's why I'm upset. And usually it's not about, stubbing your toe, or it's not about, the coffee maker didn't make the coffee, or the pot exploded, or whatever. It's oftentimes about something that happened before that's triggering your reaction to this event.
Thank you so much for sharing your incredible knowledge. I mean, how did you develop all of this? I mean, it is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I mean, yeah,
Thanks.
I'm learning so much. Thank you.
So back to my parents, actually, and while I was caring for them, I I wish I could, first of all, I wish I could say I developed all this and these are my techniques, but they're not. I'm certified as a therapeutic journal writing instructor through a online institute called Journal to the Self. And she is world renowned. She's just amazing. And I happened to be lucky enough to have found her um, through my caregiving process. And she helped me use some of these techniques while I was caring for my parents. And they helped me so much through my caregiving process that I decided to become certified and take all the classes and use it to help caregivers in their journey. But some things that can happen when you're caring for a loved one, aside from the day-to-day emotion and struggle and whatever, we tend to use, we can tend to have all that emotion bottled up inside of us, and we're not expressing it in healthy ways, right? So for me, I became very unhealthy. Not just weight, but I drank a little more than I normally would. Not all the time, and I'm certainly not saying I was a drunk or an alcoholic, but I used alcohol as a drug, if you will, to manage the emotions. I overshot. So I developed unhealthy spending habits, and I chose people to date through this process that were not healthy relationships. So this is pretty common for caregiving situations. You make really bad choices and decisions because we're not dealing with the issue at hand, and that is the emotions that come when you're caring for a loved one. There's stress, there's anxiety, there's grief, there's guilt, there's just anticipatory grief. There's just all this stuff that's going on inside of you that if you don't have a healthy way to identify it and manage it, these unhealthy habits can develop. And so I used all of that to learn how to help other caregivers.
That is so fantastic. And I mean, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, I am so impressed and honored that that you're here. I really am. And I hope people can have the opportunity to get in touch with you. How would they get in touch with you?
So I have a website, which is carepartnersresource.com. I also have a Facebook page, same name, Care Partners Resource and Consulting, and I do a lot of free writing prompts on there and writing techniques that you can find. And I also have a book that I just published that's available on Amazon. It's called "You're a Caregiver, Not a Saint," and it is
I learned something new here. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a journal. It tells my story. And then the end of it is a journal workbook with techniques and prompts for caregivers. They're very specific to caregivers to use. Both either a professional or a family caregiver would benefit.
So if you could repeat that for everyone.
The name of the book?
The name of the book and where they can get it.
Sure. It's You're a Caregiver, Not a Saint. Yeah, right. WRITE. And it's on Amazon, or they can find it on my website, carepartnersresource.com.
Awesome. Yeah. That is really great. Really great. Congratulations.
Yeah,
how long has it been around?
It was just published this summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's doing pretty well. It's there's nothing better than to get an email from a caregiver that says, you know, I used this, and or I tried this technique, or I didn't realize that I was suffering from grief. But, you know, there's so much of grief involved in caring for someone, you know, and when
Wow.
we say that word, people always think it's after the person passes, but it's not. It's, you know, grief of loss of relationship. It's grief of all the things that you lose when you become a caregiver. You know, I moved away from my family and all of my friends, my whole community that I had in Colorado. Um, so there was a lot of grief around that loss. I gave up a career that, you know, just so many things that caregivers deal with that can cause grief.
Wow. Wow. And it's so amazing. You know, I'm so fascinated by people's journeys and the things that they overcome, and uh, to just flourish, you know, on the other end is just such a fantastic thing. And so I just want to thank you so much for our time together here in part one. And we will be doing part two as well. So be sure be sure to catch that one. So Lori Lemasters, thank you so much once again. And you have any quick parting thought?
Wow. Well, I just want to thank you, Mark, for everything that you've done and putting this channel out there, because I think it's really, really important. And I just want to tell caregivers to just take care of yourself. Remember, caregiving is something you are doing. It is not who you are. So keep your identity and take good care of yourself. It's really important.
Thank you so much, Lori. I just love spending time with you, and I really appreciate you, and I'm honored, truly
Thank you,
honored.
Mark.
Thank you. Uh, and once again, make the most out of each and every day, and let's help make this world a better place. And if we could, uh, you know, say hello to somebody, make somebody's day, smile, give them a hand, whatever it may be in the people that you come across in your day. Uh, let's help bring this world together to help make it a better place. Thank you so much once again for joining us at To Be Your Own Hero. Please subscribe, like, and if you'd like, make a comment in the comment section of the video. And join us next time at To Be Your Own Hero. Thank you so much.